everybody, I am Thatnursingprof and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about all of the normal physical changes that can occur in the postpartum woman. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to introduce to you is the concept of involution. So what involution is the uterus returning to its pre-pregnant state. And how does it do that? By clamping down, by contracting. This is measured by assessing fundal height, and it roughly descends 1 centimeter per day. So at delivery, your fundus, which is the top of your uterus, should be roughly around your belly button. Then on day 1, it should be 1 centimeter below. Day 2, 2 centimeters below, etc. And then by day 10, you shouldn't even be able to feel it anymore. If you want to see a demonstration of this, I have done a video on postpartum head-to-toe assessment, so go ahead and check that out. There are things that can promote and inhibit involution. Things that can promote it would be breastfeeding, because breastfeeding helps release oxytocin in our bodies. And then Pitocin is just artificial oxytocin. Pitocin is usually given 1 bag per mom after delivery. Some moms need more than that, and it doesn't matter if you had a vaginal delivery or a C-section, you're probably going to get some Pitocin. And that's just to help you. Some things to inhibit this would be a prolonged labor. So your uterus has been contracting for a really long time. Maybe you've been in labor for days, right? So now it's slower to do it, or now it's tired, it's exhausted. It's like, I'm done, I'm tired, I need a break, right? So that's something that can inhibit it. Having a retained placenta, this is probably like the #1 thing that happens, is part of the placenta doesn't come out, and it's stuck in there. And so when the uterus tries to contract, it can't do its job. So imagine it's contracting, right? But now there's something stuck in there. It can't clamp down all the way because there's something in the way. So the retained placenta, that's a big problem and it needs to be taken care of right away. Sometimes if the patient had like a general anesthesia, this can slow involution. If they have a major blood clot, kind of, blocking the exit, they can't get that blood out. If they have a full bladder, that's an easy fix. Get them up, have them go to the bathroom, check it again. It's probably better now. And then if they have a boggy uterus, boggy like squishy. Your uterus postpartum should be nice and firm and hard, okay? If it's a boggy uterus, it's not. A bowel movement should happen within 4 to 7 days postpartum. If it doesn't, that's a big red flag. Now there's lots of contributing factors when it comes to this. Gone are the days that, the woman is in the hospital for a week after delivery, right? Most people are discharged within 24 to 72 hours after, so they might not have that bowel movement in the hospital. Some people are given stool softeners, laxatives, and even enemas. And then a lot of people are on opioid medications. They're on Norco or something like that because they've had an episiotomy or a 4th-degree laceration or a C-section and they need that pain med. Those are very constipating. Another reason why mom might not have a bowel movement is fear. So there's kind of this myth, and I don't like it because it encourages fear into our patients that, the first time you have a bowel movement after you have a baby is like having a whole nother baby again. And I don't like that. That's not true. That's not accurate. It can be scary for women to have that first bowel movement, especially if they've had any sort of tearing, episiotomies, lacerations, things like that. Or if they have hemorrhoids, which we'll talk about here in a second. Hemorrhoids can happen. So some women have hemorrhoids during their pregnancy, and then some of them don't get it until they're in that 2nd stage, which is that pushing stage of labor. So what can we do for hemorrhoids? Cold compresses like ice packs, topical creams or sprays, numbing sprays, and then we can of course give pain medications like ibuprofen, Tylenol. Those things will help with the hemorrhoids. You can also use, I didn't put it on the list, but I just remembered, you can also use like witch hazel Tux pads, and that can help with swelling, which will help with pain. Some women will experience eye hemorrhages, so the blood vessels in your eyes might break a little bit because of the pressure from pushing the baby. And then some women also experience hair loss postpartum. And this usually isn't right away. This isn't like, within the first day or two. This is several weeks after delivery, and this can last up to a couple of months. Now we've talked about involution, which is the contracting of the uterus, right? And you're probably thinking, contractions, labor, that's painful. So are contractions painful postpartum? They are, but it's a different kind of painful, okay? So these are called after pains. These are caused by those contractions. They usually last the first 4 days. And then the big reason they're happening, oxytocin. So this is being released, it's doing its job, it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is to compress those blood vessels and to help shrink the uterus and prevent mom from bleeding too much. Some things that can affect after pains would be the number of babies you've had. So if this is your first baby, your after pains likely aren't going to be too bad. If this is your 10th baby, they probably will. They'll probably be a little bit more intense. And then also, how far have you spaced out your children? Was your last baby 4 or 5 years ago? It's probably not going to be that bad. Was your last baby 10 months ago? That's probably going to be more painful. So those are some things that can kind of contribute to your pain, as well as breastfeeding. Some moms will say, I don't have pains normally, I don't feel any cramping, but as soon as I put the baby to breast, I really feel it. And usually what I say to that is, well good, that's a good thing. It means you're breastfeeding correctly. And there is something we can do about it. We can give ibuprofen. This is something that's gentle and safe and it's not going to affect baby and it's really going to help with those after pains. The cardiovascular system. So if you remember, with pregnancy, you have that increased blood volume, 40 to 45% more blood volume in your body, right? So hypercoagulable state. So is postpartum. Postpartum is also hypercoagulable. You have high plasma fibrinogen levels. So we need to watch out for clots. They're at high risk for clots. And then tachycardia. Most women post-delivery are usually tachycardic, just slightly, 100 to 110, that's pretty normal. When it comes to vital signs, speaking of vital signs, their temperature can be elevated slightly in that first 24 hours. And when I say elevated with in a normal range. 100.4 or higher, that's not normal. But in the 99s and stuff, that can happen. Usually in the first 24 hours, it's related to the stress on the body and the dehydration that occurs. They can be tachycardic, like we just talked about, and then later on that will be followed by bradycardia. They can have an increase in their respiratory rate, and usually that's related to pain. Their blood pressure and their O2 should not change, okay? Those should stay the same. So if you had high blood pressure during your pregnancy, you're probably still going to have higher blood pressure for a while postpartum. It's not really going to change it. Another new word I'd like to introduce you to is exfoliation. Now you probably heard the word exfoliation and you think about like washing your face or something like that. But in this instance, we're talking about the unique healing process of the uterus at the site where the placenta was. What's happening is that necrotic tissue is being sloughed off. And that's important to help preserve fertility. If we didn't have this, what would happen is a scar would form in that area. And then with future pregnancies, the placenta wouldn't be able to go where it's supposed to go. So this could cause a placenta previa, or you just could never have another baby. We'd all have one baby and we'd never be able to have more than one if this didn't happen. So this is a really special thing that the uterus does, and it's really important. Lochia is that vaginal discharge, like the bleeding that happens after delivery, and it contains mostly blood, but there are parts of necrotic decidua and mucus in that as well. There are 3 different colors of lochia, rubra, serosa, and alba. I will be doing a specific video just on lochia and measuring lochia, but just for now, no, it's vaginal discharge, and it's rubra, serosa, and alba. These are the 3 colors, and this is the order that they go in. If you were to have an episiotomy or a larger laceration, like a 3rd degree or a 4th degree, you can expect that to take about 1 month to heal completely. Most women will get their first period after baby roughly 7 to 9 weeks after delivery. If you're breastfeeding, however, that could take a little bit longer. That's called breastfeeding amenorrhea, and it's totally normal. So that can happen around 3 months. One big thing I do want to make sure I point out, just because you're not menstruating at this time doesn't mean you're not ovulating. So you can start ovulating around 3 weeks postpartum. So you can still get pregnant even if you haven't had your first period yet after baby. And then the vagina. Initially, right after delivery for a vaginal birth, it's going to be swollen and bruised looking. Things that we can do for that would be ice packs, pain meds. Kegel exercises are things we want to encourage mom to do like more long term, so when she goes home, okay? So to help encourage her to do those Kegel exercises to help, build the strength in her pelvic floor. And then lactation, so if she's a breastfeeding mom, lactation can lead to dryness in the vaginal area, and that can last all the way up till 6 months postpartum. And if mom is going to be sexually active after those 6 weeks after she's allowed to be, this can cause painful intercourse. So we want to educate our patients about that too. What about postpartum weight loss? So immediately after delivery, most women lose 12 to 14 pounds. This includes, an average size baby, the placenta, your amniotic fluid, all of that stuff. Then in the early postpartum period, they can lose between 5 and 15 pounds. This is due to diaphoresis, so sweating, and urinary excretion. So you got to get rid of all that extra fluid. So how do you get rid of it? You go to the bathroom, you pee a lot, and you sweat a lot. And most women will return to their pre-pregnant weight within 6 months. So this is very important teaching for our patients, letting them know what's normal. The celebrities you see who had a baby 20 minutes ago and now they're a little, size 0 again, that's not normal, nor is it healthy, okay? This is what's normal, this is what we expect. If it took you, 9 months to gain it, and that first 3 months, that first trimester, you only gained like 2 to 4 pounds, so most of the weight gain happens in those last 6 months, it should take you about 6 months to lose it. That's the healthy thing to do. And as far as just a side note, waist trainers or compression devices, corsets, a lot of women want to use those postpartum. Those are not safe. An abdominal binder is a very different thing that is encouraged, especially if you've had a C-section. Definitely an abdominal binder. But corsets, waist trainers, anything like that, absolutely not. Your GI system, usually, initially right after birth, they're going to be very hungry. And then postpartum women are at high risk for constipation. So you want to encourage fluids and maybe even give a stool softener. The musculoskeletal system, the abdomen is going to be soft and saggy. Because remember, in pregnancy, the abdomen is firm and round because baby and the amniotic fluid and all that's in there, right? But once that comes out, the abdomen is soft and saggy. Mom might experience aches and pains in her back, neck, and shoulders. Sometimes they might even report what feels like a bruise in their back. And if they had an epidural or a spinal, that's exactly what it is. That usually takes a week or 2 to heal though. Swelling, due to the IV fluids that we gave them. So this swelling could be our fault, usually in the lower extremities. And usually it looks worse before it gets better, and that's normal. The urinary system, they might have issues with voiding, like they don't feel like they have to go, even when their bladder is completely full. So we want to encourage them to try. And then we might see, if you were to do a UA on these patients, transient, sugar, protein, ketones in the urine. But that should go away. Their skin, they might now have stretch marks. And then initially at postpartum, they're going to be like these pink, bright red stretch marks, maybe even like purple in color, depending on your skin tone. But then later on, postpartum, they will start to fade and they will turn into like a shiny silver color. But unfortunately, stretch marks don't just go away, okay? You can put all the cocoa butter on your belly you want. If you have them, you're probably going to have them forever. But they do fade. And then lots of sweating. And then finally, your breast. Whether or not you're going to breastfeed or bottle feed, your breasts are going to go through some changes postpartum. Initially, they are going to try to make milk, even if you're not going to breastfeed. And they will feel full and heavy. And a lot of times people will ask me well, how do I know when my milk's going to be in? You will know, okay? You will feel it. You won't have to ask. You will know. And if you're going to use breast milk to feed your baby, then go ahead and feed your baby. If you're not going to breastfeed, you're going to bottle feed, then you do need to take steps to get rid of that milk, or that's going to be uncomfortable and painful for you as the patient. So that was my video on the normal physical changes that occur postpartum. I hope you found this helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And if not, I'll see you on the next one.